Hello, this video is an interpretation of light cones. Just for interest, a light cone will be compared with the equivalent of an animation of 3 space dimensions. A light cone is a graphical representation typically presented like this. It shows 2 space dimensions and 1 time dimension. The third space dimension is not shown because it is difficult to display 4 dimensions. The parts of a light cone will now be embellished. An observer event occurs in space-time. A coordinate system is chosen so that the observer event occurs at the origin of the axes. The time of the observer event is the present. The time axis is scaled by the constant c, the speed of light, which gives convenient unit values of time. Now showing the past light cone. Any light that arrives at the observer event must have travelled along a path on the surface of the past light cone. The distance of that light from the observer event is proportional to how long before the present time it was at that distance. Now highlighting the inside of the past light cone. Nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. All events that affect the observer event must have happened on the surface of the past light cone and emitted light, or must have happened inside the past light cone. The present appears as a plane, but is a 3-dimensional space in 4-dimensional space-time, referred to as a hyperspace. Now showing the future light cone. Any unimpeded light emitted by the observer event will travel along a path on the surface of the future light cone. The distance of that light from the observer event is proportional to how long after the present time it is at that distance. Now highlighting the inside of the future light cone. The observer event cannot affect any event outside the future light cone because nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. Turning attention to an animated 3-dimensional space diagram. The observer event occurs in space. A coordinate system is chosen so that the observer event occurs at the origin of the axes. The time of the observer event is defined as the present, but that will be animated. It begins in the past. The yellow sphere has a cutout just to help interpretation. The yellow sphere corresponds to the past light cone. The radius of the sphere is proportional to how long before the present time it is being depicted. Any light that arrives at the observer event must be somewhere on the yellow sphere. The inside of the sphere corresponds to the inside of the past light cone. All events that affect the observer event must have happened on the sphere and emitted light, or must have happened inside the sphere. The yellow sphere shrinks as the time approaches the present. The animation pauses at the observer event, at which time the graphical sphere is non-existent, but a dot represents the observer event. All of the 3D space at this point in time corresponds to the light cone's hyperspace of the present. Any unimpeded light emitted by the observer event must be somewhere on an expanding sphere. The expanding sphere corresponds with the future light cone. The observer event cannot affect any event outside the sphere because nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. Bringing back the light cone. Now the light cone is animated by highlighting time slices which correspond with the time of the 3-dimensional space animation. Light cones have a relevance to relativity, which is another story.